Two parking spots.
Like a plan view of some sort. We're gonna with steel legs that would have.
Okay, sorry.
Sweet. Yeah, I'll take that's basically the process. I'll take a look at what Solomon got. Next year. And you're okay with that?
It is now 5 p.m. on Wednesday, May 1st, 2024, and Carmel-by-the-Sea City Council will call this special budget meeting to order. City Clerk, will you please give a roll call?
Thank you, Mayor. Councilmember Harris? Here. Mayor Pro Tem Mickey?
Here.
Mayor Lehman?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you, Ms. Murray. We will now stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We will now go to public appearances. Members of the public are entitled to speak on matters of municipal concern, not on the agenda during public appearances. Each person's comment shall be limited to 3 minutes or as otherwise established by chair. Matters not appearing.
Madam Mayor, my name is Bob. I live here in Carmel. Very quickly, I wanted to see if you can do anything budget-wise. We have a problem. There's ants in the park. We have ants in the park. I was wondering if that could be one of your projects to consider tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Madam Mayor, my name is Ashley, and I just want to comment on the previous commenter's comments. You know, I appreciate that ants can be bothersome to picnics, but these are special ants. They're part of a biological habitat in Devendorf Park, and you can't just remove them. So we're starting a foundation for these ants to raise money and awareness. So I would take that into consideration before you start banning ants from the park. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, if that's all, we will now proceed. We will now move to item 1 on the agenda. Consider adopting resolution number 2024-001 to authorize a budget adjustment in the amount of $315,000 with specific entrepreneurs to be determined by the council. City Administrator Pritchard, would you like to present this item to council?
Thank you, Mary Lehman. Now, the purpose of this agenda is to create new opportunities for the community of Carmel-by-the-Sea. And in a perfect world, we would be able to save around 20% of this surplus to ensure that we have more opportunities in the future, whether that's for next year's budget or just to give the community more opportunities for community building acts. So we'll be hearing from the following departments to decide whether or not we want to fund their ideas: the Information Technology Manager, the finance manager, the police chief, the library and community activities manager, the community planning building director, and the public works director. Thank you.
We will first hear from our presenter today, Ella Gallagher, as our information technology manager.
Hello everyone, I'm Ella Gallagher and I'm the Information Technology Manager. So here's the problem that I want to present. As many of you know, technology has expanded greatly and become more complex in today's society. As younger individuals, we are lucky to have grown with this rapidly changing technology and learned the complexities of it. However, the older generation is less accustomed to these technological advancements. Here in Carmel, we want to ensure that our older residents have access to education about technology. Proposal. As technology is becoming more advanced with time, it is also becoming increasingly difficult to navigate. My proposal is to create a club at Carmel High School or an organization outside of campus where a student body is able to connect with the senior community and help them with any technology problems they may have. Benefits. This will help build a connection between the students of Carmel High School and the senior population of Carmel-by-the-Sea, which also will decrease any social isolation. Along with this, it has the potential to address internet safety and prevent future security problems for the older generation. Financial estimate. The great thing about this proposal is it does not cost much money at all. The only potential things that may cost money is to pay someone to manage the whole proposal or even just the tutors, but the good thing about this is we can offer them community service hours, which a lot of high school students are looking for, and in return this would not cost anything to us. There's also a variety of free spaces to host this, including the Sunset Center, the varying libraries, and Vista Lobos, which is near the police departments. The great thing about these locations is it's in town and central, which is also easy to access for a lot of Carmel-by-the-Sea residents. For advertisement, we can do it through school. We have a bulletin every day and also a Friday show where our video club makes video bulletins for the school to view, and everyone views these bulletins, so that'll be easy advertisement that won't cost anything. Along with this, there's the city's Friday letter and the Carmel Resident Association. Thank you for listening and considering my proposal.
Council, are there any questions before we open this to the public?
I just had one quick question. You mentioned that you would like to start a club. Do you have a teacher in mind that you would like to sponsor your club, and how would this affect the funding of the proposal?
So perfectly, we do have a teacher on campus that is head of the robotics club and also the computer science and AP computer science teacher, and so I'm sure he would be happy to help lead our students, and he's also very knowledgeable. Last year was his first year with us, and he's already made a great impact on campus.
I have another question, if I may. How will you address the issue of liability while this supposed CHS student is mentoring the older individual? Is there going to be an administrative person overseeing this?
Yes, so as mentioned before, some of the cost will go to someone to manage all of this, and so as this role, they can help manage and kind of do a security check through this, and so that could be a part of the security in place.
I also had a quick question. Okay.
With the kids
Training the older individuals, would they receive training on how to proceed with it?
Yes, so if we were to do it through a club through Carmel High School, we would invite anyone interested in technology, and with this there is an expectation that they are happy to help or involved in the technology world. But then again, with our very trained and professional teacher that we have on campus, I'm sure he'd be happy to help train the children as well.
And just one more question. You said that you wanted to do this through Carmel High School to downtown Carmel with older citizens. Do you plan on including students who go to private schools that are also living downtown? And how would this information get to them if it's displayed through the CHS bulletin?
So the hope is to start it at Carmel High School, but as said, through the different advertisement ideas, there's many different places that varying kids could see this, even if they don't go to Carmel High School.
I have a question as well.
Yeah.
So there's a pretty sizable population of older people in Carmel. And so, like, for instance, if my grandparents wanted to apply, would there be like a selection process? Will it be competitive? Because I know there'll probably be a lot of people interested in this service. So is it going to be volunteer, or like the older people going to come just if they need assistance, or how are they going to be reached out to?
That is a very good question, and I still need some time to figure out all of the details, so we will get back to you on that.
Perfect. Now we will hear from Harrison Glazer, our finance manager.
Before we hear from Harrison, is there any one in the public who would like to ask any questions or make comments about Ella's presentation?
I just want to say I really appreciate that IT presentation. Very often IT goes underfunded in organizations. I'm just mentioning that. The other thing I wanted to say regarding these ants, I want to make sure that I'm sorry, it's a different topic, but there's a full CEQA process before any action's taken against the ants. Thank you.
I'd just like to make a quick public comment. Longtime resident. You may not know by looking at me, but I'm a spry 85-year-old here. Time's been good to me, but as an octogenarian, I can tell you this is a wonderful idea. I could definitely use some help with operating my BlackBerry to navigate to my MySpace account, which I'm pretty sure is lost somewhere in this cloud that everybody's talking about. So getting a young whippersnapper to help me with that would be very helpful. And also helping me figure out how to turn on the mute on my phone would be great. So thank you very much.
Any other comments from the public?
Okay, now we shall proceed to Harrison Glazer, our finance manager.
Hello, my name's Harrison Glazer, and this is my proposal for a funding request for the finance department. The finance division currently has 4 positions: the finance manager, accountant, analyst, and specialist. 2 positions of which are currently vacant. The finance manager position has been vacant since November 2022, and the finance analyst has been vacant and is responsible for the city's payroll processing and making consistency vital. This is important because having a complete financial team is essential for effectively managing the city's finances. This leads to overburdened staff due to vacancies and can create potential errors in the financial operations. Filling these positions will ensure the payroll processing and other financial tasks are carried out consistently and accurately. A complete team will also enable the city to make informed financial decisions and effectively manage its resources. The sign-on bonus for the finance manager the sign-on bonus would be around $25,000 with $40,000 with additionally for recruitment efforts. This can be justified with the sign-on bonus. It'll attract a top talent and will effectively benefit our city. The additional funds will go towards further recruitment to better the selection, and it will relieve overburdened staff. And the salaries are already budgeted, and this will help the financial team. Vacancies in the financial division impact operations, and approval for the funding for the sign-on bonus and recruitment will help them overall. It will relieve the overburdened staff, ensure accuracy, and make sure decision-making capabilities are well set. Thank you for hearing my proposal, and thank you.
Council, are there any questions before we open this to the public?
I have a question about the sign-on bonus, is that $25,000 for each of the 2 vacant positions? Or is that $25,000 total? So is that split between the 2? Or would that make the budget total $90,000 for the proposal?
No, that would be the goal for filling at least one position at a time. So if we could find at least one for now, it would benefit the team better.
And so this is just for the finance manager currently?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Now, you mentioned that this would be giving new jobs. Would this be an ongoing payment, or is this a one-time yearly payment?
So currently, since the finance team has been vacant, this would be just for this year and this year only.
I have a question as well. Will the insurance and health benefit costs be included in the cost for funding that you are asking for right now?
Yes, that would be also included with the additional cost with hiring them.
Okay, if that's all the questions from the council, then we can open it up to any public questions or comments about Harrison's presentation. Okay, if that's nothing, thank you.
Next, Bailey Stewart will present as our police chief.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and council members. My name is Bailey Stewart, and I'm here representing the police department. Today, I will be here discussing the need for electric vehicle charging stations at the police department. This all ties together with the transition to electric vehicles to promote sustainability within the department. So the project history of this is in 2009, a council directive investigated alternatives to fossil fuels for the police fleet. And in 2020, the chief of police addressed the city council into converting the police fleet to electric. In 2017, the police department bought a fully electric one motor vehicle, and recently in 2024, we are pursuing ordering 2 fully electric vehicles, one for administration purposes and one for patrol use. And this year, the council directed staff to come up with a climate action strategy, and this recommendation meets those goals. And also Governor Gavin Newsom issued by 2035, California Air Resource Board approved a rule requiring 100% of new car sales in California to be zero-emission vehicles. Electric vehicles are expensive, so with a little bit of this budget going to electric vehicle charging stations, the cost of going green will financially be well worth it. So by implementing these electric vehicle charging stations at the police station, vehicles in the police fleet that use a lot of fossil fuels, as a city, we can become ahead by becoming more sustainable. This is the rationale for the police department use, is that when electric vehicles are implemented, the police department will have lower maintenance costs, quieter operation, and cost savings on fuel. So where's the location? What are the charging station specifications? The charging stations will be located as seen in the picture, 2 chargers on the middle wall and 1 on the backside wall. We expect to spend $40,000 for all 3 chargers. The Ampeco company that's also located here, this charging solution fulfills the needs for 3 different stations with 2 plugs each, and for those of you who are interested in cars, that's 240 amp, 25 miles per hour. So commonly asked questions: what are the benefits? What are the cons? What will happen during a power surge/outage? So EVs produce zero tailpipe emissions, which help reduce air pollution and greenhouse gas emissions, thereby promoting cleaner air and combating climate change. Generally, electric vehicles have lower operating costs compared to traditional gasoline-powered vehicles due to lower fuel and maintenance costs, reducing the financial burden on the police department. So the charge for electricity per hour is 20 to 30 cents, and that basically totals out to $117.60 a year total. So power surges can pose risks and challenges for electric vehicle charging stations at police departments, but with the proper infrastructure and safeguards, we can mitigate these issues. So here's what could happen and how to address them. Power surges could interrupt the charging process, potentially inconveniencing officers who rely on electric vehicles for their duties. Mitigation for this could be implementing backup power solutions, such as uninterruptible power supplies or backup generators, to ensure continuous operation of the charging stations during surges or outage. And to prevent damage to the electrical equipment, we can install surge protection devices and help limit the voltage spikes caused by power surges, protecting the charging station equipment. And so estimates, return on investment, timeline. Electrical vehicles cost more than gas, but we're a city looking to become green. Maintenance would be $25K a year, each vehicle reduced to $5K a year, and the city can get money back and grants up to $6,000. We're also reducing amount on fuel, $45K for fuel, with replacing 2 vehicles for electric, at least $5,000 each year reduction. And so the following year, another $10,000 will be given back, each by adding 2 more vehicles. And so over 3 years, instant return on investment due to the maintenance and fuel costs. So more electric vehicles equals more return on investments. And with the electric vehicle chargers, that would greatly help us. So, and the timeline for this is by July 15, 2024 is the expected date to get this installed if it's approved today. Thank you. Any questions?
So you mentioned that you were looking for $40,000 for right now. Now,
Yeah.
in a year from now, are you looking to expand this and add more chargers?
Yeah, it depends how many electric vehicles we get implemented, which we would maybe further come to you for that.
And then I had one more question. Do you have an estimate on how long the cars can run? Because in the instance that a police officer would have to chase somebody down going fast, that would drain the battery quite quickly. So while a police officer's on duty, are they going to have to take breaks during this time to go recharge their car?
With the company of the charging stations that we're going to use, the cars would last all day from the beginning of their shift to the end of their shifts.
You mentioned having generators and surge protectors, and is that included in the cost that you put for the $40,000 or no?
The AMPO company covers that with the $40,000 in costs.
Okay, if that's all the questions from the council, then we'll open it to questions from the public.
Thank you, that was great. Just have one question. I heard a rumor that the IT manager was denied a 50-amp circuit when he tried to get cooling for one of his IT rooms. So where is this power supposed to come from?
I'm Bob again. I'm a big advocate of EV charging stations. In fact, it'd be great to put a whole bunch of them in Vista Lobos parking lot and the north lot of Sunset Center, by the way. But anyway, I saw in the Pinecone Journal the other day that they're going to demolish the police department and move them into the Park Ranch Library because nothing goes on in there anyway. So what happens to the EV charging station if there's no police station there anymore?
That's our department right now. We're focusing on EV chargers just in the police station. So everything outside of that is not in our scope.
Okay, if there are no more comments or questions from the public, then we'll go ahead and move on.
Now we will hear from Lila Glazier, our Library and Community Activities Manager.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm Lila, the Community and Library Activities Director, and I'm here to present to you on the Carmel Light Festival. So, a long time ago, in the mid-1900s, it was Carmel's old tradition to do summer festivals for many years. In the past, they had a summer festival called the Circus, and it was a festival that they used to celebrate Carmel's history and culture. And in Carmel, during this time, a lot of the people were referred to as the Carmel Lights, which is why we'd call this festival the Carmel Light Festival. And what we want to do is we want to bring back Carmel's history of having summer festivals with our new idea. So, our new idea is to create a summer festival called the Carmel Light Festival, with a temporary LED installation and a disco dance floor done by world-renowned artists. and it would be located in Devendorf Park. And it would be a really cool opportunity for Carmel because we've been talking to professional artists and they'd be really excited to take this job on. So it would be the last 2 weeks of June, June 10th through June 29th. And here's a rough diagram of the park plan. You can see where the plugs would be for the LED lights and how everything would be laid out. So throughout the time of the event, we'd be hosting many smaller events for the community to participate in throughout the time of the installment. On June 15th, we'd have a silent disco party kickoff that would be open to the community, tourists, and just a fun activity for family and friends during summer. It would be from 8 to 10 p.m. And how it would work is people would be free to walk through the installation at any time, but would have to pay to use the headphones. And we would also have other events hosted on other nights, such as performances by the CHS music groups, the Sunset Center, and the Dance Center, who all perform at the tree lighting earlier in the year. And we would have hot dogs and lemonade by the fire department like they do at other community events. Logistics, it would be held up the entire duration of the event, but would be turned off later at night, and that would depend on what the community wants and what the complaints are by the neighbors. We would charge $15 per ticket so it doesn't get too chaotic in the disco party. Transportation, we would have people park at CHS or the Sunset Center and walk because it's a short walk from there. And we would be using LED lights, so they're more environmentally friendly than other light options. And I know that a concern might be that it goes against the no neon in Carmel rule, but this wouldn't be an issue because it's a temporary installation of LED lights and it wouldn't be neon. So supplies and advertising. For advertising, we'd like to purchase light banners in the park that would advertise the event. We would also want to purchase directional signage for day of events and advertise our event in local papers. And our main purchase for the advertising would be a light bright board that would add to the overall LED effect and help us advertise the event. So seating, we'd like to purchase LED seating for people to sit, hang out, and see the lights and eat and just add to the overall scene. And the thing about these seats is that they wouldn't just be a one-time purchase and we could use them for more community events later on. So here's the cost of the overall project. We'd be using almost all the money, but it would be done by world-renowned artists who have done projects in Paso Robles, so it would be a big thing for Carmel. So why do we want to do this event? It would encourage community bonding and get us together, and it would help us remember our history and old traditions, because Carmel used to have fun things like a summer festival, and we want to be able to do more things like that again. It would also provide performance opportunities and celebration of the arts for more local groups, like the ones I mentioned before. It would be a fun summer activity for families and friends, and also attract tourists and help us make more money as a city. And it would be done, again, by world-renowned artists, and it would further help celebrate Carmel's rich art history and culture. So our recommendation is for you guys to approve funding in full for the Carmel Light Festival. Thank you.
Before we move this to the public, are there any questions from the council?
I had a question. Don't know my work things. Okay. So you mentioned that you would be surveying those around Devendorf Park to see what time it would be best to end the event. How will you be doing that?
I think through the council, we could submit a form to the public and on social media to see what time would work best for everyone, and also base it off of other events that we host, like the tree lighting, when they turn off then, so that we don't disrupt the public.
And what will be the scope? How far does someone have to be able to take the survey?
I'd say within a few blocks where you can see the light, installment.
Would the light installation in the park harm or disrupt its natural look? If so, how would you mitigate these issues?
Well, obviously it's not supposed to be natural. It would just be a new thing for Carmel, and it would not hurt the environment or the trees. We wouldn't be like the structure wouldn't be based around any of the nature in the park. And it would be temporary too, so it would only last 2 weeks.
I had a question about you talking about how you would have big name artists performing. And I was wondering, at the Tree Light in downtown Carmel, it gets pretty packed. And you said that this event would be open to tourists as well. And so with only charging $15 a ticket for big name artists, how do you contain it to make it to the point where it wasn't overflowing?
That's a good question. Well, I think that depending on who we hire to perform, like if they're very professional people from the Sunset Center, for example, we would definitely charge more for the tickets, depending on, again, who they are. And I think for the Christmas tree lighting, yes, it does get packed, but we do it every year and we do manage it.
And would you make a cutoff for the amount of tickets that you're selling or no?
I think for the disco dance party, we would have a cutoff, and we are thinking about 100 because it would last throughout the whole night.
First of all, I love this proposition because I didn't know about this, so it's just a very cool fact about our town's history here. Could you go back? Would you be able to go back to the funding slide just to see the specifics again?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. So do you perchance have an estimate, or do you know what kind of revenue you'd be able to gain from this, from tickets, or perhaps from more indirect tourism? Because I know this is a big amount, but it could maybe ease some of our concerns if we knew that maybe perhaps there was a sizable portion of revenue that would be built that would give us back some of that funding.
We don't have an exact amount yet, but we are expecting that there would be a lot from this. The first time we do it, we just want to see what would happen and just try it out, because I know a lot of events in Carmel happen by just doing that. And we know it would attract a lot of tourists because a lot of other places have had these installations and been very successful with them. And we could also upcharge the tickets for the performances and the disco dance party to gain back more money after spending it on this project.
I had another question. So for the big name performers that you would be bringing in, are they getting paid as well, or are these people volunteering to perform at the events?
So for groups like CHS and the Dance Center, we obviously wouldn't pay them for that. But depending on who we hire and who we're able to hire, yes, I think that we should pay them if they're big name performers.
And would that be included in the cost we will be giving you, or is that separate?
That would be separate, but it also depends. Like the first times we do it, I feel like we would probably start with smaller performers, and then depending on how much that costs, move up.
Okay.
Now, you briefly mentioned problems arising with bright lights being displayed in the community, and similar to the scoundrels at Carmel High School with the whole lights situation. If there was an issue to arise from this neon lights, even though they are temporary, would you have to compensate the people in the area, and do you have an idea of what that would cost?
Well, I think that we would make sure it's completely okay with them first, because we aren't going to spend all this money and put up such a big project if they're not okay with it. And we would also compensate the time that they're on. Like, I know it would be nice, since summer days are longer, to have them on until 1 in the morning, but of course, if the community wants them off later or earlier, then of course we would compensate, because we want this to happen and we want to make sure the community is happy with it.
Would you be open to downscaling the lights installation and immersive experience costs, only because this is the first time that we would be doing this and we don't know exactly what kind of revenue we would build back or how many people would come?
Yeah, of course. I think that the first time we do it, we just want to see how it would run, how much money we make from it. And yes, we would be open to lowering the costs in any way we can.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll now open questions to the public.
Oops. Hi, Jack Daniels. I live down on San Antonio. I have two questions. One is will there be alcohol served at this event? And then secondly, I have a real concern with the lights and light pollution. It may affect my view of the night sky living down on San Antonio. And I have a feeling with the amount of lights that you want to put in that this will be visible from space.
Ms. Glazer, would you like to respond to that?
Well, there's lots of trees that would cover the lights. And again, we could turn them off according to what the community wants at any time.
Okay, if there are no other questions from the public, then we can move on.
Okay, now up is Hallie Crabb as our Community Planning and Building Director.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. My name is Hallie Crabb, and I'm here to talk about continuing the document scanning and digitizing project. In a world constantly evolving, it is crucial for the City of Carmel to stay ahead of the curve and adapt to emerging challenges and opportunities. With this proposal, we aim to do just that by updating the current organizational structure of public records. With the existing state of the disorganization in the storage facility, there can be many challenges and inefficiencies that can take place. When attempting to find specific public blueprints or files, it can be a very difficult and time-consuming task. Without forgetting that every time anyone wants to go and see a blueprint or document, they have to schedule an appointment ahead of time, and a staff member has to be with the civilian at all times to make sure everything stays orderly, taking up about an hour of the staff member's time at every appointment. In addition, the risk of important documents being misplaced or damaged due to the current tactics being executed. While acknowledging the current state of the facility, one can see how dysfunctional the process of finding important information is for the workers who use it in their everyday life. In the development community, jobs such as architects and engineers rely on accessible and accurate blueprints for their work. In addition, they might need constant access to documents for keeping projects on track. Property owners who like to have access, the documents might not always be accessible. All without forgetting the city staff, who also have to supervise all activities surrounding these important road plans so none go missing or ruined. With a simple solution, this ongoing problem can be solved. Reflecting onto the previous change in public record storage, all the new documents can be transferred onto the GIS interactive viewer map. Looking at the map, you can see. Looking at the map, you can see any viewer has access to any public files. Consider this phase 2 of the original change in updating the process. In this project, we successfully implemented stage 1 of the same issue, and we can repeat the process. When clicking on one of the little boxes, you can see that there are many results that come up in property files, and you can click on some of the document and records or property files to see what is being stored currently in the room, but now they have been successfully transferred onto this GIS interactive map. As discussed, this was the previous state of the Community Building and Planning Office. The historic property files were an inconvenience and overwhelming task a staff member had to take on whenever someone requested to see the papers. This was the before, and this is the after. This example is exactly what we would be implementing in stage 2. We plan to open up more room and make each of the new documents accessible at all times and any times. After being scanned, all the documents would be transferred to a secure storage facility with a company called Iron Mountain. With this information, we ask for $50,000 to continue the ongoing task of updating and transferring all data for the exact same project. The money will go towards hiring a company to come in and scan all the existing blueprints to be added onto the existing GIS map. ECS Imaging is a company we've used in the past and is highly recommended. There's numerous customers that have loved the service that the GIS map provided. In summary, the idea is to update the storage facility and make all documents easy and accessible at all times. This is a necessary step to accommodate all citizens of Carmel and takes less pressure off the working staff that looks over these important documents. Transferring all these documents onto the GIS map will create a more organized way to access these documents. With $50,000, we can change Carmel's method of locating blueprints and documents and make everyone's lives a little bit easier. With that, the staff recommends that the City Council approves $50,000 for the completion of the digitizing and scanning of road plans. Thank you for your attention. This concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to address any questions you may have.
Any questions from the council?
You might have mentioned this, but did you say what employer you would be outsourcing this work of digitizing these documents to? Was that the Iron Mountain one you mentioned, or was that the source where it's going to be uploaded?
Iron Mountain was where all the files will be taken to be stored in a fireproof room. And then the company that we'll be using to transferring is ECS Imaging.
Okay, thank you.
If that's all the questions from the council, we can move on to questions from the public.
Hi, my name is Nova, and I have a lot of friends who are city clerks, and they have to respond to a lot of public records requests. So I think that they would really appreciate having a lot of the records digitized and accessible to the public. And the other thing, though, is that I don't know how to say this. This project is kind of boring. It's not very exciting, but it doesn't cost a lot of money. So I think that council should approve this, but also the Lights Festival, because that's really fun, and that will help offset the boringness of this project. So that's what I would support. Thank you.
Hello again, your local octogenarian. I disagree that this is a boring project. This is probably the most exciting project I've seen tonight. There's nothing I enjoy doing more at night when I'm sitting at home in my pajamas eating ice cream than looking at files online. So please approve this project.
I was just kind of wondering if the octogenarian could digitize these records for us and save $50,000. He's got nothing else to do but sit around and eat ice cream all night.
Okay, if that's all the questions from the public, we can go ahead and move on.
Lastly, we have Sebastian Blessing, and he will present as our Public Works Director.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and council members. My name is Sebastian Blessing, and I'm here representing the Public Works Department for the City of Carmel. Today, I'll be discussing the need for added bike paths and routes throughout the city. Implementing proper signage and road markings along designated bike routes is imperative to ensure travel safety and minimize risk of injury to riders. Supercars, trucks, and other motor vehicles aren't always looking for cyclists on the road. Adding designated and marked bike paths through the City of Carmel isn't an unneeded extra. It's a necessity for keeping our friends and family safe. Currently, the city lacks vital bike routes connecting major areas. The Public Works Department has initiated the interconnection process by partnering with Monterey Peninsula Engineering to pave San Carlos Street between 18th and 13th Avenue. Just hours ago, the road's paving was completed, and the next stages are well on the way to fruition. We hope to continue this process through our project, further striving towards a completely connected city. We're looking for an allocated $12,000, which we'll use to properly designate, paint, and mark a bike route on 8 blocks in the City of Carmel. Our goal for this project is to mark and officiate a bike route from San Carlos and 13th west to the ocean, where Scenic Road intersects with 13th Street. This route will allow for easier transportation for cyclists heading to the ocean, and of course, minimize vehicle-to-rider collisions. Marking bike routes in the city will also increase the number of bicycle commuters, decreasing traffic and greenhouse gas emissions. A study developed by the International Automobile Federation and focused on implemented bike routes in Bogota, Colombia, and Guangzhou, China, found that networks of bike paths around cities had a direct impact on the amount of greenhouse gases released into the atmosphere. These bike paths prevented 16,000 and 22,000 tons of CO2 greenhouse gases in their city per year, respectively. For reference, that's equivalent to the amount of carbon sequestered by planting 300,000 to 400,000 new trees every year. While these statistics were calculated using a larger sample size than Carmel and a fully complete bike network, this 8-block bike route will act as a continuation towards our goal of a fully complete bike network. On the designated bike routes, the Public Works Department will ensure that proper signage and markings are present along the path. Figure 1 depicts the marking to be applied to the roads. We'll use thermoplastic paint on the road at designated intervals to ensure that drivers understand the presence of cyclists on the road. The placement of signs will also be imperative. Those can be seen in Figure 2 and will be placed on either end of the bike route. We'll convert an existing street that's already designated for bikes in coordination with the circulation element of the general plan for the city of Carmel into a shared bike route, also known as a Class 3 bike route. Through these markings and signs, we're hoping to increase the safety of cyclists throughout the city of Carmel and also increase the number of commuters utilizing bikes instead of gas vehicles. We're not asking for a large chunk of the allocated funds. We only need $12,000 to finalize and execute our plan. Once completed, our new official bike routes will allow for easy transportation for many and reduce both collisions and greenhouse gas emissions. The city of Carmel included in their goal a goal to maintain the designated bike, truck, and bicycle routes in their general plan. Let's make that goal a reality. Thank you for your time, and I hope I have proven the importance of setting aside $12,000 for marked bike routes in the city of Carmel. I can now answer any questions.
Are there any questions from the council?
Just one question. Do you have an estimated time in which this project would need to be completed?
We do. So if we can get started as soon as possible, we're looking to get it done in under 2 weeks.
And will the roads you're planning to do it on, will it have to be shut down during that time?
Well, we're not paving the roads. We're just simply using the thermoplastic paint over it. But yeah, we're probably going to need to shut those roads down at least for a little bit of time to get that paint on there.
So this is not like a pathway like the bikeway we have on Rio Road where it's separate from the actual road. It's on the road and it just signifies that it's shared.
That's correct, yeah.
So I just had a question on how that helps bikers' safeties when cars can already see the bikers. So I was just like, is it just the sign and the thing on the road?
So I fully agree, and I'm also a biker myself. So the idea is that if I'm, hard to see as a biker, right, where it's just a road and there's a biker, maybe there's some trees, you can't really see him. The idea is to make these really bright white lines where you can clearly see that it's a marked road, there is bikes on the road, and there's a clear area where the bikes are going to go, even if that's not separated from the road.
Okay, thank you.
I'm struggling to see how this costs $12,000.
Well, we have a big inflation problem in the United States. So the thermoplastic paint is our real big thing that costs about $1,000 per block, and we're looking to do 8 blocks at a time, which is a fairly big chunk for a city like Carmel. But we can certainly look to downscale if that's too much for the council. We can look to do a smaller number of blocks to reduce the cost.
Okay, that might be an option that we could discuss during the deliberation later, because I know some students at the high school who would probably do this for $100. Give them a paint can and get them going, but we can discuss that. But thank you for your proposal.
Thank you.
If there are no other questions from the council, then we can move on to questions from the public.
Hi, Mayor, Council. I'm Jeff Barron. I'm an ex-city council member, and I'm really enthusiastic about this project. And I'd like to point out that it's really exciting that it's only going to take 3 weeks to get this project done, because when I was on the council, it took 3 years. Thank you very much.
Mayor, council, staff, thank you for letting me speak. I want to speak to this. I feel compelled to speak to this. My name's Bobby. I live on Santa Fe Street, and I think it's really important that we do put these arrows in the road. However, I am not a fan of signs, so please consider painting the arrows so that young drivers can be reminded that they must share the road with bikers. However, do not put up any signs on poles, because I'm tired of the eye clutter. But please put the sharrows in the street. Thanks.
So I respectfully must disagree with the last speaker. I find the thermoplastics, once they're laid down on the street, to be quite noisy when people drive over them. And so I have big noise concerns about this project. The upright signs I don't care so much about, but I really do think that that should come back to council for some deliberation on what the signs look like, and perhaps form a committee to look at that piece of things. Thank you.
Hi, it's Jack again. I agree with the previous speaker, Ashley, who didn't give her name. I don't think she gave her name. Thermoplastic, I have it outside my house. It says stop, and there's crosswalks. Every time a car goes through that, it's really loud. I have single pane windows on my 180-year-old house. It's super loud. It's also slippery. When there's moisture in the air, it gets really slippery, and I almost broke my hip the other day on it. So if we could not do thermoplastic, Mayor Pro Tem, your idea of just a paint can, I love it. Let's do that. We can get it done for $12.
Okay, if there are no other questions from the public about Sebastian's presentation, then we can move on to public comment about any of the presentations. And if there's no public comments, then we'll go into deliberation about what we will decide for the budgets. So what projects did you guys like and not like?
I'll now read the pros and cons from each one of the proposals. Miss Ella Gallagher gave the proposal of making a club at Carmel High School to help the elderly with technology. I think this is a great idea. It would be easy to do. It's a great option for students, and it builds connections within the community. The only struggle I would see with this is, as Sophie stated, there is a reliability issue, and the off chance that a student did something that did not help the person in question, then that would lead to problems. There is the financial manager, Harrison Glazer, who proposed that we provide 2 new jobs to members in City Council. This is a good idea because it would help council from within. The only con would be that if you're providing new jobs to somebody, this would bring a lot of cost. You have basic income that you would have to pay them, and then you also have insurance and liability costs that would come with it. And I also think that there could be a struggle with finding people for the jobs, but in the chance that you find both people, then the cost would be $90,000, and I forgot to mention it. But the cost for Ms. Gallagher's proposal is unknown, just based on how much you would have to pay a club representative for the school. The police chief, Ms. Bailey Stewart, proposed that we bring forth more electric cars into the Carmel High Police Department. It's a great idea, very green. The only struggle I could see with this is need for constant expansion. So you bring more cars into the community, electric cars, that would require more electric charging stations, which would then bring forth more cars, more stations, more cars, more stations, and this would just continue to grow. The Library Community and Activities Director brought forth, we have a much more community-based proposal with the intent of having a light show. And as I asked her about those scoundrels at Carmel High, you have the problem with having the community not wanting a giant light show. But this is definitely a great idea to be giving back to the community in the sense of giving them something that they could see with their own eyes, which the money is going to, and have something that they could enjoy. Now, the community planning director stated that they think that the money should go to not rebuilding, but helping with the organization of city council from within. This is a great idea. It definitely would be worth the cost. It would make city council run a lot smoother. The only issue could be that people in the district and in the community won't be able to see immediate change in which the money is going to, but through time, it could definitely improve. And then the Public Works Department from Sebastian Blessing proposed bringing forth bike paths inside the Carmel High District. Excuse me. This would be great for tourism in instances where you could expand on the project and possibly create an area in which people could rent bikes, and that would definitely help because Carmel-by-the-Sea, a lot of their funding comes from the just very large amount of tourists, and having more available activities and ways that the tourists could enjoy this beautiful city would be a great idea. Thank you.
Do any of the council members have any preferences for what the budget should go to?
Well, for the first one from the information technology manager, if that isn't costing us anything, if I'm correct, there was no proposition for any amount of money.
There's no direct amount declared, but Carmel High teachers, when they take on new clubs, I believe that their yearly income is raised by a small portion, but no serious increase in cost, no.
And nothing direct coming from this budget?
That was not stated by Ms. Gallagher, but I'm assuming that it would be through this budget that the teachers would be paid possibly an extra $5,000, $10,000.
Okay. So I don't see why we couldn't approve that.
Could we get a motion to second approving Ella Gallagher's presentation proposal? Okay, are there any other preferences for other presentations and proposals?
I also like the Carmel Light Festival. I think it would be a good time to bring the community closer, getting everyone involved. I do think we need to figure out the times we would have to end and turn off the lights, and just where we would, get all the stuff, how much we would pay. But I think it's a good opportunity for Carmel to get more tourists coming in, as well as just strengthening the community here.
Now, as I mentioned previously, we wanted, again, in a perfect world, we'd be able to use a portion of this money for something to benefit the community, but not all of it. So I think we could make the decision between providing the community with something that would be fun for them and more interesting, or we could focus more on city council from within, going with Ms. Crabb and Mr. Glazer's proposal. I think that could be very beneficial, just because, nothing against Ms. Glazer's proposal, but $308,000 it's a hefty sum of our $315,000 budget, and without assurance of that making a large portion of the money back, I think that could be a very risky jump. So I think if we focus more on building up city council from within, I think that Ms. Crabb and Mr. Glazer's proposal will be very helpful.
So would we like to not fund the Carmel lights?
I'm back again. Not saying that it's a bad cause or that it shouldn't be funded. I'm just stating that without any assurance that it would be making money back, I think it's risky. And unless Ms. Glazer has an estimate on how much money it would make back, I think that it might not be the best step that we could be taking right now. Do you want to come up, Ms. Glazer, and punch me?
Well, I just want to say that everything we do, we have to try for a first time. And you can't always expect that it's going to be great the first time, as we've experienced this all the time in leadership. And I think the only way that we could just see is if we could try it. And we could even spend less money. We could do a smaller light installation the first time we do it. But if this were a possibility, I think that, again, everything we do, it's not always going to be a success the first time, but the only way is if we see and find out.
Touche. Thank you, Ms. Glazer.
Mr. Glazer, could you come up, please, for a moment? I just have a couple of questions. Just to confirm for the council, was your request $65,000 or $90,000? Because for the signing bonus for $25,000.
It was the $40,000 for the side finding the recruits, and then the $25,000 signing bonus per position.
So 65 total, or is that going to be 90 total? Is that for the finance manager and finance accountant position? So, yeah. So 90,000 total? Okay. I just want to confirm that. Yeah. Thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments from the council? And do we have any motions?
Can always be turned down or voted if you get a second.
So, as Mr. McKee has asked me, if you are deciding to do multiple, including Ms. Crabb's and Mr. Glazer's, that would add up to $140,000. So that's roughly about 40% of our funding, and both of those would be helping City Council from within. And then, as Nova mentioned, she was interested in doing Ms. Crabb's and Ms. Glazer's combined, because it's one thing going to the fundamentals of City Council and one thing going to the community, and that would up to $358,000. Thank you.
I'm wondering what we could bring the Carmel Light Festival down to if we were going to spend less on lights. Do we know that?
Well, we could definitely do more research, because we did pick a pricey light installation because we were looking at professional artists, but I'm sure we could bring it down. And also, if you take out cost of the silent disco and if you take out cost of the seating alone is $6,000. And then the silent disco, bringing the cost for that down, bringing the cost down for the dance floor. There's a lot of things that we added it up to because we try to get everything that we'd be spending money on rather than just like the main thing. So yeah, just taking out even seating alone or we could definitely get a cheaper light installation, and we could do research on that.
I think For the sake of our budget being $315,000 and with our target reserve being 20% of the budget, I think that we should put the request from the library and community activities manager on hold for now. Perhaps to be approved in the future if we could get a reappraisal to see if that could be decreased. But at this time, we don't have to approve it now. And we can just get through the essentials first. And we can even do individual motions right now. I mean, like we can start off, for instance, if we want to approve the information technology one, we can just approve that now and then go on.
Could I have a motion to approve the information technology proposed by Ella Gallagher?
I make that motion.
I second the motion.
I second the motion.
Wait, who's second? Me? I second the motion.
He made the motion, Tristan seconded it, and so now.
What? Let's take a vote on it. Could we have a roll call, Miss Moreau?
Councilmember Harris,
Yes.
Councilmember Mickey,
Yes.
and Councilmember Lehman.
Yes.
So the motion carries unanimously.
Could we have another motion to approve? It seemed like we wanted to approve Hallie's and Harrison's. Could we get a motion to approve both of those?
And what does that total to, one more time? For Hallie and Harrison?
For both Hallie and Harrison's, it totals to $140,000.
I make that motion.
I second.
So we can motion that. Can we have a roll call, please, Ms. Moreau?
Yes, Councilmember Harris,
Yes.
Councilmember Mickey,
Yes.
and Councilmember Lehman.
Yes.
The motion carries unanimously.
And with the remainder of our budget, would we like to approve any other proposals?
So we've spent 140,000 and we need 60,000 reserve?
Yeah, so since we're unsure of the cost of Ms. Gallagher's proposal, as of right now, we're going to assume that that would not cost any money and that the teacher would be volunteering their time. So yeah, the remaining funding is $175, or $175,000.
I'm wondering, since we are unable to do, we're putting Ms. Glazier's request on hold. If we want to do more on the community route again, do we want to approve Mr. Blessing's bike routes?
And that was 12,000, correct?
Yeah, 12,000.
Okay.
Is there any way we could get the cost of that down by having, like Marcus suggested, the whatever paint and having regular paint and possibly having, like also Marcus suggested, high school students paint it, or maybe the absence of signs?
And if not, are there any other things we could use, since we did have a few complaints about the current?
Yeah, so I think the easiest way that I see to reduce the cost would be to reduce the size of the project, because right now we chose 8 blocks as sort of, a location because that was, from 13th and San Carlos then down to the ocean. So we could certainly shorten that, and that would cut our cost down by quite a bit. I think if we would, first say split it in half, then we would be roughly splitting our cost in half, which would bring it down to about $6,000.
So no high school students.
I'm not sure I could trust them to get the job done.
And you wouldn't consider removing the signs instead of removing the amount of space?
I think the signs are a necessary part of the project because they act as part of that eyesore, you know, and it's not really an eyesore, it's an eye catch, you know, because we want people to see that this is where the bike routes are, you know. That's part of their job, to be a little bit of an eyesore.
I have a question for you, Mr. Blessing. If we do decide to use students to paint the roads, if something were to happen to this student, would the liability be on CHS or would it be on the city of Carmel? How would we face that problem of liability?
I believe under that, if the council agrees that we should go forward with the high school students, and it would fall under them, but if it goes to the school and the school decides to send the kids to paint it, then it would fall under them.
Would the students being picked, would they specifically be art students or would they be students that have to volunteer?
I surely hope so.
Okay.
I surely hope so.
I have one more question. Hypothetically, do you have an appraisal for what the cost would be without the signs? What the cost would be for just the markage on the street?
I do. How many blocks would that be for?
For the whole 8 blocks.
Then it would be $8,000.
8,000?
Yeah.
Would you be amenable to the approving of just that, were the council to approve just that, and we could come back at a later date and see if those signs could be approved?
I think that benefits us, yeah.
What do we think, guys?
I like it.
Okay.
Could we get a motion to approve that?
I make the motion to approve Sebastian Blessing's proposal from Public Works, with the exception of not having the signs, for a total of $8,000.
We have a motion. Could we get a roll call, please, Ms. Moreau?
Yes, Council.
And a second, sorry.
I second that.
Councilmember Harris?
Yes.
Councilmember Mickey?
Yes.
Councilmember Lehman?
Yes.
The motion carries unanimously.
So with the addition to Mr. Blessing's proposal, that brings the budget down to $167,000.
Do any of the council members have any other proposals they would like to approve or ask more questions about?
I have a proposition. Can we use some of the money left over to go into research for the Carmel Light Festival?
I think that's a good idea.
Do you want to ask Ms. Glazer how much you think that would cost?
How much do you think that would cost?
Or how much would you like to have us do more research into
What
this?
specifically would you mean by research? Like what specific things do we want to spend the money for research on?
Perhaps a committee.
Yeah, I'd be open to that.
What do you think, Councilmember Harris?
I think since we are putting this on hold, it'd be nice to get a better just sense on what we will be doing in the future, since this does seem like a good idea. So I think we should approve some of the money to kind of be seed money for that research.
And how much money are you thinking of approving for the research?
Do you guys want to use the rest of the money, or do you want to save some more?
I think like 5,000.
Sure. Yeah.
Like $5,000.
That sounds good.
Not to exceed 5,000. Okay. Not to exceed 5,000. Does that sound?
Yeah.
And that's directed towards research.
Towards the Carmel Light Festival.
And to see how much revenue we could possibly get back, and to do more research into similar projects in other cities.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Could we get a motion to approve that?
I make that motion.
I second.
Now we have a motion and a second. Ms. Morrell, will you please do a roll call?
Yes. Councilmember Harris?
Yes.
Councilmember Mickey?
Yes.
Councilmember Lehman?
Yes.
The motion carries unanimously.
So with the addition of research for the lights idea, that brings the budget down to $162,000.
Since we have enough budget left to approve Bailey's idea, would you guys consider that? Or are you worried that it'll be an additional cost later on?
So there is the benefit of having an additional cost, but we can definitely consider Ms. Stewart's proposal. The only problem I could see is that, again, it's a growing cost. So it's $40,000 now, but then with an introduction of more and more electric cars, there's going to be a necessity for more and more charging stations, which would then deplete the budget quite quickly. So I think that's definitely something that needs to be taken into consideration, and we definitely need to be forward thinking about how we want to spend this money.
This is just for the police station, though, correct? For electric charging. Okay. And what was the price on that one more time?
$40,000.
$40,000. And where does that put us with the budget?
That would put us to $122,000. And keep in mind, 20% of a reserve value is just an estimate, and that would leave us 20% of the $350,000 budget is $63,000. So if we are walking away with $122,000 for a reserve, that's over our expected mark and is absolutely perfectly fine.
So should we approve the police chief's proposal? That would take out Harrison's proposal. Should we approve that in its entirety, the 90,000?
Yeah.
If we didn't want to
Yeah.
exceed that 60,000 reserve target.
Yeah, that's perfectly fine. I think it's just, I mean, I'm assuming that Harrison's plan is going to be $90,000, just from a standpoint, but $40,000 for Ms. Stewart's seems like a viable option, given that it's increasing police funding and benefits the community.
Okay. Well, I'm in support of this proposal.
Can we get a motion to approve it?
I make that motion.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. Ms. Morrell, may we please get a roll call to vote?
Yes. Councilmember Harris?
Yes.
Councilmember Mickey?
Yes.
Councilmember Lehman?
Yes.
The motion carries unanimously.
With the approval of Ms. Stewart's proposal, this brings the total budget down to $122,000.
And we've approved everything we want to approve. Thank you to the council for your work today. And thank you to everyone. We will now adjourn this meeting at 6:18 p.m. Thank you so much.